All right, guys, we're back with another waiver wire video so I can help you find the best and most important players to add to your teams. We have a fun big list this week, a lot of breakout bats, a starting pitcher I'm intrigued by. But quickly, before we get into it, please subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Drop the video a like. Let me know what's good in the comments, and a special shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's video. And for anybody new here, I start this video every single week with 5 deep, dense player profiles of guys I really want to highlight from the last week, plus a lot of breakout sections after, just in case you guys play in shallow leagues, in deeper leagues. There's a closer section, there's a minor league section. Anything you possibly need about fantasy baseball for the week, this is your spot to find it. But the first player in the big list this week is Heriberto Hernandez, outfielder on the Marlins. I'm falling in love with Heriberto Hernandez. I featured him last week in my breakout hitters for the second half video. I want to run it back because he keeps playing well, and I just keep becoming more and more and more of a believer. If you split out this season since June 1st, Hernandez is top 5 in the whole league in barrel rate, top 5 in the whole league in hard hit rate, and top 15 in OPS. The guy is absolutely raking. Home runs, high batting average, tons of hard hit balls, even chipping in a lot of stolen bases. And now with a full-time starting job on the Marlins, consistently hitting in the upper third of their lineup, I think is going to be highly productive for the rest of the season. Just to paint a broader picture for how Hernandez has gotten this role, he came to the Marlins ahead of last season after he was cut by the Rays. He jumped on the Major League roster mid-year, was just kind of in the role of being a lefty masher, and by the end of the year, just by playing well and some injuries coming, he wound up playing through the end of the season as an everyday player. Similar story this season where he actually made the team out of camp as a lefty masher, but was dreadful for the first few weeks, went back down to the minor leagues, got called up back in May, was a lefty masher through and through, started hitting well again, grabbed some of those plate appearances against right-handed pitchers, and now, especially since the injury to Owen Casey, Hernandez has been in the lineup every single day, and like I told you guys at the top, and you can see those stats above me, he's absolutely mashing. Bottom line, this is a player where the power is very, very legit. There was a big uptick in his bat speed this year. He's always had 70 graded power, even back when he was a bit of a flawed prospect. The batted ball metrics right now match up with this kind of power production. Again, hitting in the top third of the Marlins lineup every single day. I see someone who's going to be on something like a 30 home run, 15 steal pace the rest of the season, playing every single day. That's a very valuable asset for us in even most of our mixed leagues. Next up on the big list is Keiler Montero, starting pitcher on the Tigers. He's the only starting pitcher on the big list this week. We're going to talk a lot about starting pitchers in the sections afterwards, so make sure you guys stick around for those. But I'm a fan of Montero. You guys see the stats above. Very, very good, very productive, despite having a kind of hilariously low strikeout rate for how low his ERA is. But he spent this season kind of moving back and forth between a starter, kind of a low-volume starter, then a swingman reliever. But he was never a one-inning guy. He's never gotten fewer than 4 outs in appearance this season, and he's made 16 starts in total, so most of those stats have come while he's been a starting pitcher. And just this past Wednesday, he finally slid back into the rotation after Jack Flaherty went on the injured list. He struck out 8 Cubs, 5 1/3 innings, only gave up 1 earned run, and that came on a solo home run, second batter of the game. He didn't walk anybody. Also, his 14 swings and misses that he forced in that game were a season high, and also not very far off of his career high in 18 whiffs. And after that home run I told you guys about in the second batter of the game, and a single right after that, Montero actually retired 14 of the next 15 hitters he faced to get himself to the 6th inning. And he probably would have gotten through that inning too, but he fumbled this comeback from Pete Armstrong, clearly scared of the speed, and then came out the following batter. But there's a lot of things about Montero's profile that I really like, despite him not being a huge strikeout guy. I love the fact that his repertoire is deep and he has multiple weapons against hitters from both sides of the plate and shows command with basically every single pitch. Very sinker, slider, heavy against righties, which is great. Both those pitches are very effective against them, and he trusts his fastball and his knuckle curve enough to mix in and give those pitches some relief when they need it. And through his career, and especially through the early part of this season, he's always been very four-seam fastball heavy against lefties with a nice even blend of changeups, knuckle curves, and sliders moving off that. But that fastball is not that special. It's up a tick this year from about 93.5 miles an hour to 94.5 miles per hour, which is a big deal, and he does command it generally pretty well, but it's just not a good enough pitch to be thrown at like 40% of the time against lefties. But I do like specifically in that last start, Montero went away from that fastball more so. He actually threw more curveballs than fastballs against lefties in the start for the first time this year, then also had a lot of changeups, basically even with the fastball after that, to make it 3 basically evenly used pitches in that start. It was also really helpful in that game that he was getting tons of swings and misses. His command was elite, and he was ahead all night, so he really didn't have to worry about working from behind and throwing more fastballs. But if he can find a way to mix those 3 pitches evenly for the rest of the season, I really, really like his chances to get through the rest of the year as a successful starting pitcher. I think that's a key for him. I like that he just tried that last time out. And I like that the Tigers are probably going to sell, and Flaherty seems like he's going to miss a little bit of time anyway. So to me, Montero is a starting pitcher with a moderately high floor who's pitching in a really good ballpark with a guaranteed rotation spot for the rest of the season. That's a guy that's worthwhile as a streamer to me in 12-team leagues. Quickly, before we get to the next player, a word from today's sponsor. PrizePicks, America's #1 sports picks app, and they have an incredible brand new offer that I can't wait to share with you guys. But if you're not on PrizePicks yet, here's why you should be. The app is super simple to use. You just pick more or less on a few player stats, lock your lineup, and you're in. But maybe you'd rather just pick teams? PrizePicks has that too. Just pick the winner, spread, or total on any game or fight, and you can play that if you want as well. I've had a ton of fun this summer making baseball lineups on PrizePicks. I'm playing this one right here on Saturday afternoon. And just to let you guys know, if you want to follow along with me on the app in real time, so you can see my picks, see my lineups, see every single thing I'm doing, right there, my username down below. Follow me on the app. But now again, back to that big time new offer. If you play and win your first $5 lineup, you can get $150 worth of lineups. All you have to do is download the PrizePicks app, use the link in my description, and sign up with the promo code HMA. That's promo code HMA, and if you win your first $5 lineup, boom, $150 worth of lineups. And I gotta let you guys know that PrizePicks is available in most states: California, Texas, Florida, New York, of course. This is a huge new offer, so there's never been a better time to join. Just remember, it's the code HMA when you sign up, and click the link in my description to grab it. But please, guys, only play if you know you can do so responsibly. Next, we have Victor Mesa Jr., outfielder on the Rays, and it kind of, to me, in my heart, feels like the Rays are just doing it again. Mesa was once a pretty highly regarded international prospect. He signed during the 2018 class for a $1 million bonus. And I don't want you guys to confuse Victor Mesa Jr. for his older brother, Victor Mesa, also was signed during the 2018 class, but for a whopping $5 million bonus. Nothing ever came of Victor. He really fizzled out basically before he got to AAA. But back to Mesa Jr., he did nothing for years in the Marlins organization. I do think a lot of those younger prospects who were either signed or drafted in 2018 and 2019 really got screwed by the uneven development during COVID. But last season, still in the Marlins organization, Mesa Jr. showed some decent batted ball metrics at AAA, as you guys can see right here. Then he got 3 weeks worth of a shot in the majors, didn't produce very much, and the underlying metrics were just okay. So with that, he actually got DFA'd after last season, and the Rays jumped in, traded an 18-year-old prospect to get him, and it really feels like they've unlocked something here, which is kind of funny because the Rays are the ones that cut Heriberto Hernandez, the Marlins picked him up. Then the Marlins cut Mesa Jr., now he's starting on the Rays. So kind of funny swap there between two sharp teams at the moment. But huge bat speed jump this year for Victor Mesa Jr. Last year was only a 70 swing sample size, so not the biggest, but also not something we should be ignoring anyway. Now with a 74 mile an hour average bat speed, Mesa's among the top 75% of major league hitters. And with that, this year when he was at AAA, there was a huge jump in his batted ball quality, as you guys can see from these side-by-side Prospect Savant pages. Always shout out Prospect Savant, amazing tool right there. Nice clear visual here. You guys can see he was hitting the ball much harder, more consistently, and getting to his pull side power more than he had in the Marlins organization. Sporadic playing time for the first few weeks after he was called up like a month and a half ago has now turned into an everyday role lately. It also helps that Mesa Jr. is a good defender in the corner outfield, a left-handed hitter, cannon for an arm, good athlete. I'm a little bit worried if his spot gets pushed off during the trade deadline, but I think his bat is good enough, even if the Rays infuse a lot of talent, that he's not really going anywhere. And to me right now, a very shrewd ad if you need outfield help. Another young bat up next, Jacob Gonzalez, now the shortstop on the Pittsburgh Pirates. A big and surprising trade right before the MLB draft, where the Pirates sent out the 34th overall pick for Jacob Gonzalez and so far disappointing reliever Brandon Eisert. But Gonzalez did come in as a former shortstop, drafted as, and through a big chunk of his minor league career, to replace Connor Griffin during the regular season for the Pirates at shortstop. Since that trade, he's only started in 3 of 9 games, but oddly, a left-handed bat in Gonzalez isn't going to play much against left-handed pitching, and of those 9 games, 6 of them have been against left-handed pitchers, so Gonzalez is getting his reps against righties. Even started 1 game against the lefty and has come off the bench to pinch hit against right-handed relievers in those games he hasn't played. And when he's been on the field so far, entering play on Friday, he's 5 for 17, hit a long home run. He only has 1 strikeout, also no walks, but he seems like he's just going to be a productive hitter in a park in Pittsburgh that is pretty generous to left-handed power bats in a lineup that's been shockingly good this entire season. On top of that, the profile's still good. I love the gains he made at AAA this year, getting more bat speed, generating a ton more power. The batted ball metrics in his month and a half of play with the White Sox were totally solid. His swing decisions are good. I like how much he attacks pitches in the zone, and that helps mitigate some of what he gives back by chasing a good bit, but also pulls a huge share of his fly balls. I really think he just winds up being productive, and he's eligible at almost every single position on the infield. Great plug-and-play guy to keep keep on your bench, again, in a 12-team league for the rest of the season. Similarly, I don't want us overlooking Tommy Edman right now. It's easy to because the last 2 years have been just completely wrecked by injuries, but right now he seems finally healthy. His stats above in a small sample are outrageously good. He's in the Dodgers lineup every single day. He's eligible in most places at second base, third base, and outfield. A lot of positions that can help us out a lot. And I think it's easy to forget how important Tommy Edman was to the Dodgers during that 2024 World Series pursuit. He had like a 300 batting average and 860 OPS over that playoff run. And just multiple trips to the injured list with consistent ankle injuries have totally destroyed him since then. And last year, the 100 games he played, he clearly didn't look healthy. It was some of the worst ball he's ever played in his entire career. But right now, again, visibly healthy, running some of the best batted ball metrics he's ever had so far through his 70 batted ball sample, which is pretty legitimate, career best barrel rate, career best hard hit rate. I think that even the bottom of that lineup, he's going to be highly productive in terms of batting average, runs scored, RBIs. Will still pop out a few home runs, will steal a handful of bases, even though the great base stealing Tommy Edman, I think, is very far in the past now. Do not overlook a very productive Tommy Edman for the rest of the season. Now, that's the end of the big list this week, but like I told you guys at the top, we have plenty of breakout sections now to help you in any kind of league you might play in, starting off with the players that are not rostered enough in shallow leagues. I'm using rostership rate for ESPN right now, which some of these roster rates just make me go insane. Like the fact that Wyatt Langford's only rostered in 67% of leagues. We're going on a month straight now where Wyatt Langford's been one of the more productive outfielders in baseball. Do not overthink this. Same with Sean Burke at 63%. I'm a full believer in the Sean Burke breakout. The next pitcher rankings are going to come after the trade deadlines. I got a lot of trade deadline content coming this week for you guys. Burke is going to stretch into the top 30 possibly. I love this dude right now. Also, I want to shout out Stephen Kwan. Miserable first few months of the season, but now since July 1st, he's hitting like 500 with like 3 times as many walks as strikeouts, back in the leadoff spot in the Guardians lineup, so I think he'll be highly productive there if you need a contact-first outfielder on your teams. Jeremy Pena, 57%. The guy's raking right now. I don't know why he's so low. Clearly a top 10 shortstop in the league for me right now. Griffin Jacks, Logan Henderson, Cade Cavalli, Jared Jones. I'm going to keep shouting these guys out every single video because those roster rates do not reflect how effective starting pitchers those guys are. They should be rostered in absolutely every single 10 and 12 team league. I also want to give a shout out to Roki Sasaki for blazing so much 100-mile-an-hour heat last Friday against the Yankees. He gets the Mets this Friday. I'm recording this in the afternoon, so don't know how that start's going to go, but in a 12-team league, I kind of want Sasaki on my bench just on the off chance he has actually finally figured it out. Also, Curtis Mead, I don't know why people are forgetting about Curtis Mead. He's been one of the most productive hitters in the league since June 1st. Keep starting this guy as much as you can because he just rips the ball nonstop. And then a shout out for Shane Rowan. Really disappointing streaming option on Friday afternoon. I've just watched him give up a few runs in the first few innings in a home start against the Rockies, but still a highly productive starting pitcher that I trust very much going forward this season. Next, we have the closer report, and the closer report this week is going to be very focused on guys whose roles could change around next Monday's trade deadline. But first up, a guy who I hope doesn't is Grant Taylor. It felt like Grant Taylor was actually finally becoming the closer for the White Sox. Just before a few days ago, 4 of Grant Taylor's last 5 appearances came in save opportunities. That's a great sign. He's one of the best relievers in baseball just purely based on stuff. So if he was to be fully unleashed as a full-time closer, he'd be one of the most valuable closers in fantasy baseball. But on Wednesday night, he came in to face the top of the order for who was that? Was that the Rangers? I think it was the Rangers. I can't remember exactly right now, but he struck out 5 batters in 2 innings and like 25 pitches. He looked ridiculously, diabolically elite doing it. And then Brian Hudson came in, cleaned it up against the bottom of the order, and got the save. Frustrating, but we got to keep rolling with Grant Taylor. Also looks like Tyler Wells has fully taken the closer job in Baltimore. I don't know what's good with Ryan Helsley. Rico Garcia is being used more as a setup man. I like Tyler Wells' stuff a lot. I think he can succeed there. And then again, thinking about the trade deadline, guys like Luke Weaver and Adrian Morejon, they're guys who look like they're going to be available, and they're guys where if they get traded to the right team, I think they will be closers after the break. Weaver specifically has some recent closing experience within the last few years, and both these guys could be big-time adds right now if you desperately need saves. The same goes for Bradley Rodriguez. All the rumors swirling around, especially Mason Miller and Morejon, it means that Bradley Rodriguez looks like he could be a closer down the stretch for the San Diego Padres, so watch out for that. And keep an eye on Ben Joyce. His rehab was moved up to AAA for the Angels. I think when he's back within the next few weeks, he becomes their closer. They don't win many games. Well, I don't know how great that's going to be, but a closer who throws 103 miles per hour is still a closer who throws 103 miles per hour. Next up is a stash list, and for this week specifically, we're looking at minor leaguers who could potentially add a lot of value after the trade deadline. I think these guys aren't big guys who are going to add value after the trade deadline, and Josh Baez and George Lombard, but I think they're the highest value prospects right now in the upper minors. Baez, I think, will come up just sometime in August whenever he can preserve rookie eligibility for next year, just to give the Cardinals a bit of an infusion. He's matching a AAA, and there's a lot of smoke right now about George Lombard's eventual call-up for the Yankees. I think he'll be great defensively and hold it down to shortstop in the major leagues there. I still question the bat, though. I don't know how much power he has compared to the swing and miss and bad plate discipline in his game. I love the long term of George Lombard, but I kind of see him as much more of a defensive guy right now than an offensive guy. So maybe that's a measured stash right there, just trying to give a little bit of a warning shot. Then again, guys who I think will come up after the trade deadline: Charlie Condon, Zach Vee, and the Rockies. The Rockies probably sell Jake McCarthy and Mickey Moniak with outfield spots open. I can see these guys mixing in and getting some burn there. Hector Rodriguez is a great hitting prospect, very underrated in the Reds organization. I think they're going to trade off anything that's not bolted down, and Rodriguez gets a shot after the deadline. Max Anderson, sneaky guy on the Tigers. I feel like Gleyber Torres is a very obvious trade candidate that nobody's talking about. Anderson's a powerful second baseman who is a high draft pick in AAA right now. Decent profile in the deep league. Yohendrick Piniago also has flash at the major league level this year. Maybe as the Blue Jays kind of like trade off some bats, he gets a spot in the outfield. Carson Wisenhunt will wind up in the Giants rotation. I don't love Carson Wisenhunt, but he's going to be pitching in San Francisco, which is a great place to pitch. And also keep an eye on Blake Snell. He's due back very soon. Of course, not a minor league guy at all, but if someone in the league is sleeping and Blake Snell is on the free agent list, pick him up. Easy, watch him get hot the rest of the season. Next up are the deep league ads. I will say these first few guys in the deep league list aren't really deep league players, but I want to find a way to talk about them. Brandon Sproat, Christian Scott, Robert Gasser, Bubba Chandler. Lots of starting pitchers who have not been consistent this year, especially guys like Scott and Sproat who basically have not pitched deeply into games, but they're all showing legitimate signs under the hood where they can rip off nice stretches. Basically, all of them are going to be available in most of your 12-team leagues. If you have a roster spot that you're not really married to, take a shot in these guys. Especially, I'm still obsessed with Bubba Chandler's upside. Last start was the best he's thrown the slider all year long. I can see any of these guys ripping off some great stretches the rest of the season, and they're not consistent enough to have gotten the shallow league section up above, where I shout out a lot of the other second half breakout pitchers I like a lot. Then we have Luis Robert Jr. on the Mets. Again, dropped everywhere after missing a few months with that back injury. He's going to get traded for a contender, and he's the classic lightning in a bottle guy where if he got blazing hot for the last 2 months of the season, no one would be surprised. Also would not be surprised if he hit a $180 for the rest of the season or got injured and missed the rest of the season. But that's the nature of Luis Robert Jr. Ryan Walshman and Tyler Locklear just called back up by the Diamondbacks. Walshman finally hit his first career home run, so shout out Walshman. Still like the tools there. And Locklear's looked good in a handful of games back at first base for them. And their first base has been such a black hole that if they don't make a trade at the deadline, they definitely will want Locklear to maintain this job moving forward. Esteury Ruiz has actually been putting his bat in the ball, playing closer to every day for the Marlins, and the dude has 22 stolen bases and like 100 plate appearances this year. A great deep league guy. I'm also very intrigued right now by the trio of Matt Shaw, James Triantos, and Pedro Ramirez. I don't know if any of these guys are going to get consistent playing time for the Cubs the rest of the season, but I think all of them are big-time trade candidates as the Cubs trying to figure out what they do this deadline, so I'm keeping an eye on all three of those guys. Luis Rengifo is now back in everyday role with the Padres and sometimes even hits high in their order, which is insane. I really liked what Zach Thornton has shown in his first few starts with the Mets. I don't know about the upside there, and I don't think he's going to wind up with any strikeouts, but he's a really big-time command lefty who moves around his cutter, has good fastball command. Now he's mixing up his repertoire, trying to widen it out more, and is showing increased velocity. In a deep league, he's a great guy to have on your bench and stream at home in Citi Field. Andres Chaparro, similar. He's got great batted ball metrics, and I think Nationals' first base job will become open after the deadline because there's a lot of smoke right now around Luis Garcia. So Chaparro is a guy who I've been throwing on my bench in deeper leagues. Jim Jarvis also is just hitting for the Braves. Shortstop will be very difficult for them to upgrade the deadline. I don't know if any of these shortstops like CJ Abrams, Zach Neto, or Jeremy Pena are really available. So there's a good chance that Jarvis keeps getting more playing time. He's been productive when he's been in the field. And then Christian Encarnacion Strand, first base DH is a bit of a logjam in Baltimore. We'll see what happens with them at the deadline, but I've always loved the bat speed. I've always loved the raw power. Deep league, deep dynasty league, good time just putting them back on your bench. And now lastly, I've given you guys tons of players to add, so I have to find some to drop. Gage Jump, it looks really bad right now, and I don't want to deal with him trying to figure his stuff out when half his starts are in one of the worst parks to pitch in anyway. Jose Altuve, I've been saying it for weeks now. It's the swan song. He looks dreadful. Nico Horner also really bad. 10-team league. I have no problem at all dropping Nico Horner. The same goes for a couple young pitchers who flashed really well at the beginning of the season, but have been really uneven lately in Trey Savage, Will Warren, and Davis Martin. Just doesn't seem consistent enough, especially in a 10-team league. 12-team, I'd probably still hold you Savage, probably still drop Warren and Martin as they pitch so bad lately, but Again, 12-team league is more fringe. 10-team I'm dropping. Jaren Duran's got like a 200 on base percentage over the last 2 months. If any of you guys are still holding on to Duran, which I don't think many of you are, definitely time to drop him. And I do want to shout out one of my guys this year I'm growing really concerned about, Braxton Ashcraft. He just looks really tired. He's never thrown this much in a season. I wonder if the Pirates give him some time off. I wonder if they reduce his role and have Cameron Ledzinski piggyback on him in like 3 to 5 inning outings. I don't know what's going to happen with Braxton Ashcraft. I'm definitely not dropping him yet, but I'm not putting him back in any starting lineups until I see him even this thing out. But that's another great waiver wire video in the books. Thank you guys all so much for supporting the content. Going to be 2 fun trade deadline videos coming this week. Monday, ideal trade deadline targets and destinations. I did that in the offseason with free agents. You guys loved it, so I'm running it back for the deadline. And then Tuesday or Wednesday, I'm going to be reacting to your guys' trade deadline hot takes. So make sure you're following me on my Twitter account. Link is down there in my description because I'm going to put out a tweet this week asking you guys for hot takes. And I'm going to just scroll through them on a video and interact with you guys. But thank you all so much. Check you next time.